Hello and welcome to the show. Now compared to the other cars in this latest DLC pack, the BMW 323 is, to be honest, not particularly interesting to me. However, I am hoping that when we put plenty of power into it, it will then become perhaps an interesting car, and we will see how it fares around a wet circuit. There is certainly plenty of upgrading potential for this car. It starts off in D class and there are a fair few engine options. We can go for the 2.6 litre inline 6 twin turbo, we can go for the 5.7 litre V8, we can go for the 3.2 litre i6 or the 5.2 litre V10. There are plenty of choices for engines. I believe, if I remembered correctly, the 3.2 litre i6 is the most powerful of the lot when fully upgraded. The V10 gets just over 900 horsepower. I believe the i6 gets about halfway, about 950, 960 horsepower. So that's what we're going to go for. Also, the i6 is lighter than the standard engine and lighter than all of the other options here. So that is what we shall go for, of course. We shall put a great big turbo on it as well. 485 horsepower, that's more like it in this car. That's a more reasonable power figure. We will get some Forza Aero, front and rear. No crazy wings going on the back of the BMW, unfortunately, if we are going to install it. I don't know, it looks a bit weird, this car. Certainly from the back. From the front it's alright. From the back, I don't know. I don't particularly like it. It might turn out to be an amazing car. Certainly, these sorts of BMWs, see them racing kind of amateur level, if you like. You see a lot of them around the other place. So maybe when all of this done, I will change my opinion on it being not a massively exciting car. But yeah, we shall see. Tyres, what are we going to get size-wise? 255s on the front. Not too bad, actually, on the front of this vehicle. And we're going to get 255s all round. Okay. Was expecting a little bit bigger tyres on the back of the car. Normally, when you have a car that starts off as all-wheel drive, that's when you get identical tyre width front and rear. I was expecting a little bit more on the back of the BMW, but that is not the case. We are now perfectly at the top of A car, but we were until we put that in. We shall go through with all of the handling parts. Considering this vehicle hasn't had the main handling parts put on, you know, weight reduction, brakes, suspension and whatnot, PI is actually going up pretty quickly relatively quickly on this one, as we are up into S class. If we're going to ever, come on, we want the brakes. The brakes are quite important. This might actually come out to be quite nice and light, come to think of it. Is it 2,700 pounds already? It might might not be too bad. For some reason my game is going really slowly with installing of parts today. Is this BMW being a pain to work on? Is that what it is? Is it having to take extra time to install the parts because they're awkward or something? Maybe. Oh god, imagine if imagine if that was what we had to go through. You had to wait to the time of the bloody game, depending on how awkward the car was to work on. Come on! I want the roll cage. Thank you, game. And I do want the full weight reduction now. 2,440 pounds is, yeah, not too bad. I'm actually kind of expecting that to jump the PI up a bit more. I always think this is going to add more PI than it actually does. Yeah, we might not be doing too bad on the way front. I guess the advantage of having this kind of compact version is there's less cars, so there's less weight in general. Now, for the engine, for the rest of the power, as I said, I'm pretty sure I've remembered it correctly, hoping to get midway through the 900 horsepowers. I think that's what we will see from this engine. That's it should be enough to liven the car up a little bit. Oh god, this game is going really slow today for the installing stuff, up to 656 of the horsepowers. Now a fair bit is of course going to come from the turbos. I think a fair bit also comes from the intercooler as well on this engine, if I have remembered correctly. Having said that, I thought the PI was shooting up. It actually not quite so much anymore. We're not yet into R class, although there we go, 700 horsepower, just under 2,400 pounds for an S-Class car. That's a pretty mighty power-to-weight ratio going on in in this, of course, you know, with all full handling parts and whatnot. Right, turbo, that's more like it. Almost 200 horsepower from the turbo upgrade alone. That's impressive, to say the least. 963 horsepower, there we go. I did remember correctly. 680 torque. We will just finish it off. 974. There we go, from the BMW. The weight is now gone back up again. These bits will, the intercooler and the oil and cooling, do add a fair bit of weight on to 2,500 pounds. That's still not a bad power to weight ratio. We will get the flywheel installed to finish it off. Oh, we're back under the 2,500. That's good. Yeah, not a better power to weight ratio than I was expecting, actually. Not too shabby. But yeah, we're gonna have to go and see how this car will handle. Of course, to test out the BMW, we have come to the Virginia International Raceway, where it will have 5 laps around the Patriot alternate layout in an attempt to go as fast as possible. Now, it is unlikely to challenge our current leaders, the Toyota NASCAR, Bugatti Veyron, Lamborghini Diablo. They're all in the 107s. And this, I don't think, it just hasn't got the PI, certainly, to compete with the top two. The Diablo was impressively fast, but this is still 20-30 PI down on the Lamborghini, and that is a little bit of an outlier almost in this table. I'm suspecting if we can get this into the 110s, we will probably, if we get into the low 110s, I think we will probably be doing relatively well for the car. We have got a lot of wheel spin. I did fear we might have that problem. We simply don't have the rear tyres to put the power down, not in the same way that we did with the likes of the Diablo and so on. Please get turned, or the Cadillac for that matter. The Cadillac had humongous rear tyres. This thing does not annoy any suggestion of power, and it is more than happy to go very, very sideways. It is yeah, pretty lively in these conditions. Ooh, get it slowed down through there. Now, we were struggling. Yeah, don't eat the curb, otherwise we could just. Yeah, we can just literally go sideways the entire way up there if we want to. This might be one of the more oversteery cars that I have driven. In fact, it might be one of the most oversteery cars we've had in this series. It just can't put the power down in the same way. And with the CTSV, we were getting to full throttle very easily out of that final corner. Here, I'm in 4th gear, I still can't do it. 5th, we can, but the car bounces and moves around on the way up the hill there. We did almost crack 180 miles an hour. Oh, brakes aren't fantastic either. We've just stopped. That was a few millimetres away from the tyre bundle. Okay, so we have absolutely no rear grip in this car. There's absolutely none of it. We lack a lot of traction and it bounces. I'm surprised to see this car having issues. I think it might have been just because I was being a slight bit of a moron with the throttle more than anything. The bumps up towards turn 1 have only really affected the very lightest of cars. You know, we're talking the Porsche 550 Spider, the Jaguar. I think the Jaguar D-Type had some problems. Those kind of vehicles, the tiny classic race cars, are the ones that get caught out by those bumps, or even like the Caterham and so on. This is, yeah, it's a bit lighter than some of the cars. Again, lighter than the Diablo and the CTSV and so on. Wasn't expecting it to be light enough to have issues there. We're going to have to just be a lot more patient with this throttle. We just can't, even in the higher gears, it still just wants to spin the wheels. That's all it wants to do. 5th gear, we're going to actually have to kind of slightly coast our way up here, or maybe just short shift into 6th for that section, because otherwise it will spin the wheels, and spinning the wheels through that bumpy section I think is what causes the problem. We'll have to try that next time around. We've got a couple of laps to play with, to experiment with different bits and pieces, and that is what we shall do. Back end is so uncooperative. It really is. It's just wanting to step out of line. The front end's not too bad. We've got half decent turning, but that kind of makes things almost a little bit worse because the front end gets turned into these corners really well. Back end just can't follow it. It's just off doing its own thing. It's yeah, It's easily controllable sliding, which is nice. It's not snappy, and I don't feel like I'm going to spin this car when I'm pushing it. It's just losing time because the back end has got absolutely nothing in the way of grip. Right, around this final corner, trying to be careful with the throttle. Still, it does just want to burst into wheel spin. 5th gear. No, okay, alright, 6th. Here we go. 6th gear. Oh no, even 6th gear across the bumps. The car's bouncing and unsettled. It has got, pretty decent acceleration. Considering I'm having so many issues putting that power down with bouncing up towards turn 1, it's still doing 175, 176 miles an hour. That is good going. That is very good going. This thing has got some serious acceleration about it. I just can't use it around this track. I think that's one of the big problems with this car. Is I simply cannot make the most of that acceleration. Things like the Diablo, I could make the most of the Diablo's acceleration. To be fair, this I think is much quicker accelerating than that Lamborghini. If it could find grip, if it could put its power down and stop spinning the wheels everywhere, it would be, I think, a quicker car, certainly in a straight line, than the Lamborghini. Is just fighting and fighting and fighting with the car constantly that holds it back. Right, final turn as we go on to our last lap. Right, 3rd gear. It doesn't seem to matter really what I do with the gears, whatever it is. It's still getting wheel spin. Even 6th, trying to go to 6th even there and go full throttle on the run up towards turn 1. It just doesn't work. It just wants to spin across the bumps. We were a very low 1 minute 11 that last time around, so if we can get a bit more time out of the car, that would be nice. I think we should be able to get it into the 110s potentially. It'll go in that very crowded area. I turned in a little bit too soon there. I thought I was going to have massive issues across the puddle. I didn't. That's the first time I thought I was going to have massive issue with this car, and I actually it was alright with it. The rest of the curves and puddles are horrible, but that one there was actually quite nice. No, don't get on that throttle too soon. We're just wasting time, more wasting time going sideways. It's not too bad through this turn. Again, it's the front end. The front end is nice. It gets turned in. The back end just does its own thing, and I can't maintain that much speed though up towards this final corner. Yeah, we'll leave it in 3rd for this. Try and get a good run onto the start finish straight. Come on, BMW, we can make it. We're just going to spin the wheels. I couldn't go quicker. I got a little bit better first sector, slightly worse second sector, and pretty much a neutral final one. A 1:11.0 for the BM. A very tail happy car, this one. Yeah, decent front end grip, but wants to slide about, and it's the lack of traction out of a couple of these corners where, especially at the final turn, where you can get speed, it just can't use its power. It can't deploy all of that power on to the road, so it is a fair bit of a handful. The lap time will put the car in a very crowded area of the table. It goes into 21st place. It beats the Jaguar D-Type and the Lotus Elan, the Caterham R500. However, it loses out to the Mercury Coupe. It loses out to the Maserati race car. The racing vehicle that was initially kind of a benchmark for this circuit. It has been beaten by a fair few vehicles actually around here, but the BMW isn't able to. The Maserati is a mid-S class car, and it had been holding on well for a little while, but yeah, the BMW just can't use its power. Impressive power. I'm very impressed with its acceleration, but it's just unusable at a circuit like this. And yeah, similar story with the Jaguar D-Type. The Jaguar D-Type, ridiculously quick accelerating. Can't use any of its power though around a circuit like this. So yeah, it does stump the BMW a little bit. However, with that impressive acceleration, I am interested to see how it will fare when we come to a speed run. Of course, that means heading to Le Mans. Again, the BMW is unlikely to trouble the very top of the table here. It simply doesn't have the power of the likes of the Alpha 33, the Jaguar D-Type, and so on. But with some fairly impressive speed at Virginia, I am thinking that this could go pretty well. Down here, indeed, it reckons 238 is possible with just the default setting. So let's go and remove some of that aero. May we see past 240? I think indeed we will, by the looks of it. 243. See if we can get any more out of it. Could we have a big, I was gonna say a big surprise, but maybe not a massive one, but a fairly. That's not bad going for its power. If we can get 240 plus out of it, quite what our total. I don't think we're going to quite get the 244. I think we will run out of straight before we manage to achieve that. But yeah, let's go and see what the car is capable of down this Le Mans straight. Also be interesting to see how it fares with a dry circuit. We have had actually a few vehicles in which the balance has been a fair bit better in the wet than it was in the dry, interestingly. I wonder if this car will still be... it's still a little bit on the oversteery side. Yeah, probably better suited to a dry track. Oh, that's some big sliding. Yeah, it's still a fairly oversteery car. Nevertheless, curbs are not a real fun experience in this one. We may have problems with the bumps. I think it's unlikely to have big problems with the bumps. We were... oh no, that's not going to work through there. That's not got the grip to quite carry that much speed. I think I get slightly carried away with this car. It catches me out just how fast it accelerates. I don't quite expect it to be. And to give the car a fair shot at the speed run, we will back it up so that it can carry as much speed as possible onto the straight. I think that's what's one of the things that I'm finding. It's not perhaps the car running out of grip, it's just I'm coming into these corners way too fast because I'm not expecting it to be going as quick as it actually is. As I was saying, the bumps I don't think are going to cause a problem. I would be surprised if they did. Either way, yeah, this thing is seriously quick. 190 before the corner. We have seen cars hit 200, but they are the lightweight classic race cars with 1,200 horsepower. This is seriously quick accelerating. I am very, very impressed with that aspect of it. The rest of it perhaps not so much, but that brutal acceleration is very, very good going. We are up to 240 miles an hour with relative ease. I'm not sure we're going to be able to get 44, but we might get, in fact we have got 242. Can we get 43? Possibly? Maybe? No. Don't think we're going to do that. We've got a little bit on two wheels across the bumps. We will be flat out through the kink without any issues whatsoever, which is always nice indeed. And then we will jump on the brakes, bring it down. We're not going to bring it down quite in time. Yeah, we're not... may have put it in reverse at one point there. Not quite got as powerful a brakes enough to do that from such a high speed at that point. But, yeah, a far quicker accelerating car than I was expecting. 242 miles an hour is certainly not too bad when it comes to straight line speed, and in fact it will put the car into 20th place. It goes quicker than the Porsche 356, although admittedly that did try and take off. But still, the BMW is faster than the Porsche. It beats the NASCAR as well by 3 miles an hour. Beats the S2000 and the Charger Hellcat. However, it will lose out to the Ford GT40, Dodge Daytona, Lamborghini Diablo, Bentley Continental GT. It's not a bad. Again, considering it doesn't have the 1,200, 1,300 horsepower in this car, that's not a bad straight line speed. And certainly, the acceleration is very, very good going when you can put that power down. It just, most corners you can't use all of this power and all of this acceleration. It just doesn't have the rear grip to be able to do it. Yeah, coming onto the Le Mans straight it does. It is a relatively medium speed corner that you come out of, but out of lower speed corners it's just not got that rear end grip, that rear end traction to really make the most of it. It's made worse certainly in a wet track, but even in a dry track like this one I think we would still have a similar issue at the slower speed sections. Yeah, let down a little bit by its lack of traction. It's a bit more, it's certainly a bit more exciting to drive with this much power. A little too oversteery for me. Yeah, very, very good acceleration, but it does struggle to make the most of it. However, that is going to be it for this video, guys. Thank you very much for watching, and until next time, goodbye.